Okay, this time I will review The Venture Brothers, one of my top 10 favorite animated shows ever. This show is a geek's dream come true. It satirizes everything from old cartoons to comic book superheroes in a very smart and very respectable way. So, what's the story? Rusty Venture was once a boy adventurer, but now he is a grumpy old man that mostly lives on the fame of his dead father. He has two adventurous sons, a super strong bodyguard, and a helpful AI. They all constantly get in trouble with various villains and experiments gone wrong. What makes this series especially strong is that every character and company in this world has a history that is very involving. This helps create depth for this world and makes the characters seem oddly realistic. The events in Rusty Venture's early years are still very relevant, and you can see how his unusual childhood shaped him to the grumpy old man he is today. He is practically Mr. Scrooge. He only cares about money and sex and doesn't have much patience with others. He is one of those really funny and really likable TV jerks. His sons, the Venture Brothers, are very geeky in their own special ways. Hank is an unafraid troublemaker that rushes into danger the moment he sees it. He is obsessed with Batman and even believes he was Batman in one of the latest episodes. His brother Dean, on the other hand, pisses his pants and faints at the near sight of danger, and is more interested in classic literature than in comics. Their father doesn't really care much for them. Actually, one recurring theme of the first season was that almost every villain they came across would probably be a better parent than Rusty. Rusty also has a bunch of clones of Hank and Dean in the basement, so if they die, which happens quite often, he just replaces them with a couple of clones and everything's fine. So he doesn't take any responsibility for his sons at all, which is really funny. He once said that if you have a clumsy child, you make it wear a helmet. If you have death-prone children, you keep a couple of clones in the basement. Brock Samson is the family's bodyguard, a combination of Conan the Barbarian and James Bond. He's the perfect killing machine and babe magnet, with an unfathomed bloodlust, and he's actually a rather nice guy. Brock genuinely seems to care for the Venture Brothers, especially for Hank that idolizes Brock. He once worked for OSI, which is this world's answer to G.I. Joe. At the end of Season 3, Brock returned to OSI and was replaced by Sergeant Hatred, that since become one of my favorite characters. Not only is he an ex-villain, but he is also a reformed pedophile. He always tries to better himself, and I really hope he stays with the Venture family in the future. Then there's Helper, an AI that's been in the family ever since Rusty's childhood, and even if Rusty don't see him as a person, Helper do have real feelings and cares deeply about the family. The show had several villains, but their arch enemy was the Monarch, a butterfly-themed villain with a raspy voice. He has an army of identical-looking henchmen that is just as incompetent as he is, but he is not a stereotypical bad guy. He has feelings and cares about the people closest to him. He even has a girlfriend named Dr. Girlfriend that has the body of a supermodel but the voice of a 50-year-old male cigar smoker. She has had relationship with other supervillains in the show, but always seem to come back to the Monarch, sort of acting like the Monarch's voice of reason. This of course leads to my favorite characters in the show, Henchmen 21 and 24. In most shows we usually forget that the henchmen are people too, but here they have given two of the Monarch's henchmen real personalities, and the result is one of my favorite all-time comedic duos, Henchman 21 and Henchman 24. Henchman 21 is a nerd that loves all kind of fiction and faces everything with an optimistic attitude. He even hymns the theme from The Empire Strikes Back when he puts on his costume. Henchman 24 is just as nerdy as his best friend, but he is more pessimistic. Yet he always ends up following the Monarch and 21 in whatever doomed to fail plan they have to destroy the Venture family. Actually, things took an interesting turn for 21 after 24 died in the final of Season 3. After that sad incident, 21 decided to become the best henchman in history, getting buffer and learning several kinds of martial arts and military strategy. He became the Monarch's highest-ranking agent, but later became a crime fighter named the Viceroy, going from the funniest to the most badass character in the show. Another villain was Baron von Underbite, that is a parody on Doctor Doom. Once he was the ruler of a country named Underland, until the Venture family and a revolutionist named Girl Hitler dethroned him. Girl Hitler is actually quite the opposite of her namesake. She might have the mustache and she even do the Hitler homage, but she proved to be a good leader for her country. There's also the Guild of Calamitous Content, an organization of villains whose prime function is to keep all the villains in line, making sure right villain fight the right hero. Let's say that the guild existed in the DC universe. They would tell the Joker not to go after Superman because he is Batman's enemy, and they would probably tell Black Adam not to go after, say, Wonder Woman because he's, Captain Marvel's supervillain. Yep, that's how they work. Oh, and their leader is David Bowie. Among the Venture's allies, there's the overdramatic sorcerer Orpheus, that is their neighbor, that despite having somewhat of an ego is actually a very nice person, and he has his own team of heroic sorcerer, one of them being a parody on Blade. His daughter Triana, that's been Dean's love interest, and Billy and White, a pair of geeky scientists, and of course General Hunter, the leader of OSI, that is such a patriot that he had a sex change to work undercover and then changed back. Oh, plus he's absolutely war crazy. There's also a parody of Frankenstein's monster named Venturestein that would later become a freedom fighter for criminal experiments, which is an interesting take on those old sci-fi stories. Another cool character is JJ. He started out as an undeveloped fetus inside Rusty's belly, but is now free and living a life to the fullest as a rich millionaire. He is all that Rusty is not, so of course Rusty hates his guts. But JJ just wants to be friends with everyone. There are many other characters I could talk about, but I just wanted to mention one more character, and that's Dr. Henry Killinger. I spared him for last because it's hard to say whether he's a hero or a villain. He's a supervillain efficiency expert and a coach for various characters. He always tries to make everyone's lives and businesses more effective, or maybe he just wants them to be what he wants them to be. But no one really knows why he does what he does. Personally, I think Killinger is neither bad nor good. He just tries to keep things in order. Plus, he's just badass. He is extremely intelligent. He's an even better magician than Dr. Orpheus. He has a deep German accent and he has this magic murder bag. He is just so freaking cool. The show also satirizes various comic books and cartoons, and that is also very funny, especially their parody on Fantastic Four. I will not spoil it for you, but it's really funny. And of course there's parodies of G.I. Joe, Voltron, Scooby-Doo, The Avengers and Batman. And they all work because the writers actually seem to have a lot of respect for the source material, and they know how to make fun of it. So more than the huge amount of great characters, funny satire on various cult classics, and a well-structured universe, what more especially is good about this show? Well, what about the fact that unlike most comedy shows, this show actually has a lot of continuity, as every episode builds upon the last, which allows the characters to grow through the seasons. The way the characters are in the first season is not the same way later on. The creators of this show know that good storytelling always came before humor, and that allowed for a much more intriguing show that did more than simply parodied old cartoons. It gave us something greater.